Hello and welcome to Woke Watch, an ongoing series of videos where I find woke stories and content from all around the internet, and together we pick them apart to expose woke ideology for the madness it truly is. Today though is a little different because it involves a very personal memory of mine. The year was 1981, I was 3 years old, and my grandmother took me to the cinema for the very first time, and the film that was showing was the Disney musical Mary Poppins. Now that film had been released 17 years earlier, but back in the very early 80s, VCRs weren't even a thing. If you're under 25, VCR, ask your parents. So if you wanted to watch a specific film, either you had to go to the cinema or wait until Christmas and hope it was on the TV. And it had a lasting impression on me because generally speaking, I despise musicals. They're too far. The idea that if I were walking along the street, singing a song to myself, if I then turned round and the rest of the street has fallen into step and women start doing fucking cartwheels in front of me, I think, oh, I finally snapped. I'm having a psychotic episode. Nonetheless, there are three musicals I like: Mary Poppins, The Greatest Showman, and South Park, Bigger, Longer and Uncut. Before I get into this, let's just take a moment to appreciate how hot Julie Andrews was back in the day. Anyway, the disease of wokeness, pushed by the anti-everything brigade, is creeping through society like a particularly aggressive cancer. And now people have found something to be offended by in the Disney classic. So the British Board of Film Classification, the BBFC, have decided that the film can no longer be on a U certificate, U meaning universal, suitable for all. In the UK, it's now going to be on a PG certificate, effectively saying that Mary Poppins is not suitable for young children. As an Englishman, the only thing I find even mildly offensive in Mary Poppins is Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent. "Alright ladies and gents, call blimey, it's Mary Poppins." Now, he has taken flack for that for years, and if I'm honest, I think it gives the film some of its character. I'm a huge fan of Dick Van Dyke. He's one of the last great song and dance men, and it will be a sad day when he passes. And given that he's 98, it's not going to be too long. But the issue, meaning that the film has to be reclassified, is the apparent use in Mary Poppins of racially offensive language. Now, I haven't seen the film in a few years, but I can't recall a scene in which Bert and the rest of the chimney sweeps join a far-right hate rally, bricking the windows of a local mosque before breaking into the racist chant, "There ain't no black in the Union Jack." Of course, that scene wouldn't have worked in the film anyway because it's set in 1910, a time when Britain was still very much expanding its empire rather than importing citizens from said empire into the United Kingdom. The issue is that the character, Admiral Boom, twice uses the word Hottentot. No, me neither. Hottentot is a slur used against the indigenous people of South Africa, meaning primitive or barbaric. The thing is though, by the mid-19th century it had fallen out of common usage among English speakers. The reason that the Admiral uses that term is to show that he's old-fashioned, eccentric, maybe even a little senile. Because firing a fucking cannon off his roof every hour isn't enough of a hint. He uses the word twice throughout the movie. The first time he addresses the bank's children and simply asks, "Are you off to fight the Hottentots?" I don't think any sane person could find that offensive. The second time though, if you're going out of your way to be offended, which is what woke ideology is all about, in particular looking at things from the past through modern eyes and getting all upset about it. The second time he sees the chimney sweeps dancing on the rooftops, and it's worth noting some of them have soot on their faces, and exclaims, "We're being attacked by Hottentots." If you squint a bit, maybe you could make an argument, but I'll ask this question. If it's so offensive, if it's so terrible, if it's so racist, why has it taken 60 years for anyone to notice? Mary Poppins was released in 1964, so I'm guessing, I haven't checked, it is a guess, that it was filmed either in 63 or maybe even 62. Now in 1962, the Arab slave trade was still in operation. Arabic countries were importing human slaves from Africa. But the reason there aren't people of African origin in the Middle East today is because all the male slaves were castrated. Which is more offensive, that was still going on, or a depiction of a man who would have grown up in the 19th century used a mildly offensive word? 5 years ago, a publication from New York also called out Mary Poppins for blackface. And of course, it isn't blackface. Chimney sweeps would regularly be covered in soot. And soot, in particular, when it's the result of burning coal, is very rarely white. Being a chimney sweep was a common working class profession from the time the film is set in. Albeit, if we're to believe the film, then those men would have had a lot more money if they spent less time carrying out carefully choreographed dance routines which they performed on the rooftop where no sod can see them. In fact, although I don't have a functioning chimney, if I hired any tradesman to do work on my house, and when I opened the door there were 30 of them going at it like it's opening night on Broadway, I would be asking for an itemised bill. But this current trend of going out of the way to be offended by everything is really easy to do if you're of a certain mindset, in particular if you're determined to ruin something for everyone else, which is sort of what being woke is all about. Acting the victim whilst being the aggressor. So let's stick with Mary Poppins. At the beginning of the film we meet Bert, who's performing as a one-man band. Now, if I imagine that I attend the Church of the Eternally Offended, I think a one-man band. Not a one-person band, or a gender-fluid, non-binary they-them band, a one-man band. Not only that, but throughout the entire movie, everyone just assumes everyone else's gender, and at no point does anyone introduce themselves and then tell everyone their preferred pronouns. How monstrous! So, if I continue in the same mindset, when we get to the animated section of the movie, the jolly holiday as it were, the penguin waiters tell Mary she won't have to pay for anything she orders. Mary Poppins using her pretty privilege like the slut she is. I bet if Mary had been a morbidly obese black trans woman, they wouldn't have given her the time of day. Later on, with the song Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, we see the pearly kings and queens who are all a bit ugly and a bit stupid. Presumably because they're working class. But one woman hits her husband over the head with a tambourine, thus justifying domestic violence. And during the fox hunt, the hunters are comprised of English nobility, whereas the fox has an Irish accent. The English are chasing down, hunting the Irish. And at the time when the film was set, relations between England and Ireland weren't particularly good. They weren't much better when it was released in the 1960s. And what about the song, A Spoonful of Sugar Helps the Medicine Go Down? Not if you're diabetic it doesn't. Did they not consider that? There is one line from one of the songs I find genuinely amusing, from Chim Chimney, where Dick Van Dyke, as a chimney sweep, sings, "Good luck will rub off when I shakes hands with you." Really, mate? You're the one covered head to toe in soot who'll die prematurely of respiratory failure. So once again, that's wokeness trying to fix a problem that isn't fucking there. That's the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe. And as ever, thanks for watching. The year is 1981 and I am 3 years... I don't know why I'm doing it present tense. It's not the fucking Twilight Zone. Can we just appreciate how fuckable Julie... No, I can't. No. Tell you what's worse than using a slightly racist slur. Julie Andrews made a film where she was a stripper, and I saw that when I was about 8 or 9 years old. Sunday afternoon, sat in the living room with my family, and Mary Poppins got her tits out. First time that the Admiral fuck it, asked them off to fight the Hottentots. Now surely no one can of course someone can fucking find that offensive, Dan. I'm very, very grey at the moment, but on Saturday week I've got a gig coming up. So by this time next week, this will be jet black. All right, ladies and gents, it's Mary... Fuck it. I forgot to put this in the main video. The other musical Dick Van Dyke's most well known for is Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which was written by Ian Fleming, who wrote the James Bond novels. A chitty bang bang was a chit given by a commanding officer to a soldier, so that said soldier could visit a brothel. That's ruined that film for you.